Maria Santos and Antonio, a humble couple from the Philippines, never imagined that their quiet life in Dubai would spiral into a deadly nightmare. When Maria caught the eye of Sheikh Faisal Al-Nasir, a billionaire with a dangerous obsession, what began as temptation and luxury quickly turned into betrayal, secrets, and murder. This is the shocking true crime story of love, greed, and deadly consequences. Maria Santos arrived in Dubai with a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had left her small hometown in the Philippines with her husband, Antonio, hoping for a better life. Antonio worked as a chauffeur for wealthy families, a job that provided modest stability but little glamour. Maria had always dreamed of living in a city of towering skyscrapers, luxury cars, and endless opportunities, and Dubai seemed to promise all of that. Their apartment was small, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood far from the glittering lights of the city, yet it was a place they could call home. Life at first was simple and predictable. Maria spent her days cooking, cleaning, and occasionally helping Antonio with errands for his employers. She formed friendships with a few other expatriate women, sharing stories about their lives and dreams. Despite the hard work, Maria found herself staring longingly at the opulent lifestyle that surrounded her. Shimmering boutiques, lavish cafes, and extravagant parties seemed like another world, one she could only observe from the sidelines. Antonio was kind and devoted, but his focus on providing for them left little room for romance or adventure. Maria's curiosity about the world beyond their modest life grew with each passing day. She started noticing the wealth and power that seemed to effortlessly surround Dubai's elite. Sometimes she would linger outside the gates of mansions where Antonio drove his employers, imagining herself inside, living a life of luxury and admiration. It was a temptation she couldn't quite resist, though she told herself she was content. Yet, beneath her smiles and polite conversation, a sense of longing brewed. Maria felt a restless pull toward a world of indulgence and attention, a world she had never known but increasingly craved. Little did she know, this yearning would soon lead her down a dangerous path that would change her life forever. Maria's life began to shift the moment Sheikh Faisal Al-Nasir noticed her. The billionaire was a prominent figure in Dubai, known for his wealth, influence, and carefully curated social image. Maria first saw him at a charity event hosted by one of Antonio's employers. She was immediately aware of the contrast between their worlds. Hers was modest, predictable, and safe. His was dazzling, powerful, and untouchable. Yet Faisal seemed genuinely intrigued by her, a simple woman whose charm and beauty shone without the need for luxury or pretense. After the event, Maria began receiving subtle attention. Lavish gifts arrived at her home, often anonymously at first, a delicate necklace, designer scarves, and invitations to exclusive gatherings she would never have imagined attending. At first, Maria felt uncomfortable, unsure why someone of such stature would notice her. But over time, the attention became intoxicating. She began dressing more carefully, walking with a new confidence, and secretly looking forward to the mysterious gestures that punctuated her ordinary life. Faisal's presence was magnetic, and Maria soon found herself drawn to him. He invited her to private dinners at penthouses overlooking the city, where the world seemed to sparkle in a way her modest life never had. Every gesture was carefully calculated to make her feel desired, admired, and special. Maria felt torn. The life she had built with Antonio was simple but secure, yet the allure of Faisal's world promised excitement and indulgence beyond her wildest dreams. As the weeks passed, Maria's world began to expand in ways she had never anticipated. She started attending social events that were previously unimaginable, meeting influential figures, and experiencing luxury that made her heart race. The line between curiosity and desire blurred, and Maria began to feel a dangerous thrill, one that would soon pull her deeper into a world of temptation, obsession, and peril. Maria's secret life with Sheikh Faisal grew more daring with each passing week. What had begun as casual meetings and polite attention quickly turned into a private world of luxury and indulgence. Faisal showered her with gifts, designer handbags, sparkling jewelry, and invitations to the most exclusive parties in Dubai. Maria, who had spent her life dreaming of such glamour, felt a rush of excitement she had never experienced before. Every moment with Faisal made her feel important, admired, and above all, desired. The more time she spent in his world, the more she drifted away from Antonio. She began inventing excuses for her absences, claiming she was visiting friends or attending errands. While Antonio remained loyal and devoted, Maria's thoughts were increasingly consumed by Faisal. She started dressing in ways that reflected his tastes, learning to navigate the high society circles of Dubai, and even practicing the charm and poise that Faisal seemed to favor. Yet with the thrill came danger. Maria was well aware of the power imbalance. Faisal was a man used to control, and she was stepping into a world where a wrong word or action could have serious consequences. Despite this, she could not resist the allure. Each lavish dinner and private outing felt like a step into a fantasy, a life she had long imagined but never dared to pursue. As her secret world grew, so did her internal conflict. She loved Antonio but was seduced by the intoxicating attention and wealth Faisal offered. The tension between her loyalty and desire began to build, creating a fragile balance that could shatter at any moment. Maria's choices were no longer innocent. Each meeting and every secret gesture pulled her deeper into a dangerous game where the stakes were higher than she could have imagined. Antonio had begun to notice subtle changes in Maria's behavior, though he tried to dismiss them at first. She was frequently absent without explanation, her phone calls were hushed and private, and she returned home with gifts he could not afford. At first, he assumed she was simply enjoying the occasional indulgence, but a creeping sense of unease began to take hold. Something was not right, and the small, quiet life they had built together was starting to unravel. Unable to ignore the growing tension, Antonio started paying closer attention. He noticed her distracted glances, the way she would smile at messages he could not see, and the way her demeanor seemed to shift when discussing certain topics. Doubts turned into suspicion, and suspicion grew into fear. The more he observed, the more evidence pointed to a secret he could neither confront nor fully understand. Driven by a desperate need to uncover the truth, Antonio began a quiet investigation. He checked her phone when she was away, noting messages and invitations from someone named Faisal, a name he did not recognize, but which seemed tied to her sudden change. The lavish gifts and unexplained outings now made sense, and a feeling of betrayal began to consume him. Antonio realized that the woman he had trusted with his life was living another life entirely. Yet fear kept him from confronting Maria directly. Dubai was a city of power and influence, and the man behind the name Faisal was no ordinary person. Antonio understood that challenging a billionaire could have consequences far beyond anything he could control. Still, he could not ignore the truth. Each passing day tightened the knot of tension and dread in his chest, leaving him trapped between love, fear, and the rising certainty that Maria's secret life could end in disaster. The tension between Maria and Faisal escalated quickly, reaching a dangerous breaking point. Faisal's obsession with Maria had grown over time, and his controlling tendencies became impossible to ignore. He began issuing subtle but clear demands, insisting that Maria choose between her simple life with Antonio or the world of luxury and attention he offered. The pressure weighed heavily on her, and the thrill of his wealth was now tinged with fear. Maria attempted to navigate the dangerous terrain by keeping both men in her orbit, hoping to maintain control. She tried to placate Faisal with promises and attention while continuing her life with Antonio. But Faisal's patience was short, and his intimidation tactics became increasingly aggressive. Threatening messages, surprise visits, and public displays of anger revealed the darker side of the man she had once admired. Meanwhile, Maria's guilt and anxiety began to consume her. She was no longer simply enjoying the attention. She was trapped in a high-stakes game where any misstep could have severe consequences. Each encounter with Faisal left her feeling more vulnerable, while her relationship with Antonio became strained and tense. She feared the moment when her double life would collapse, and she realized that the luxury she had chased might cost her everything. The danger was no longer theoretical. Faisal's jealousy and obsession created a volatile environment, and Maria sensed that the situation could spiral out of control at any moment. The thrill of seduction had turned into a high-stakes gamble, where desire, fear, and greed collided. Maria understood that her choices were no longer private. They were life-altering, and the consequences could be deadly for anyone involved. The night of reckoning arrived without warning. Maria had arranged to meet Faisal at a private villa on the outskirts of the city, a place she had grown accustomed to visiting in secrecy. Antonio, driven by growing suspicion and anger, followed her from a distance, determined to uncover the truth once and for all. The quiet streets of Dubai, usually alive with traffic and lights, seemed eerily still as he approached the villa. Inside, tensions had already reached a boiling point. Faisal's temper, fueled by obsession and control, flared the moment Maria arrived. The confrontation escalated quickly, each man's anger feeding the other. Maria's attempts to mediate or explain were futile. She had pulled both men into a storm that had no easy resolution. The room became a volatile mix of fear, rage, and desperation. In a sudden and shocking twist, violence erupted. Faisal struck Antonio in a moment of uncontrolled rage, leaving him injured and disoriented. Maria, paralyzed by fear and panic, realized that her secret life had spiraled completely out of control. She watched helplessly as the situation turned deadly, the luxury and thrill of her double life giving way to chaos and horror. In the aftermath, Maria tried to cover up what had happened, desperately seeking to shield herself from the consequences. Yet evidence began to accumulate: security footage, traces of the confrontation, and the very opulence that had drawn her in now became proof of a crime. The night that had started with seduction and temptation ended in violence, leaving a trail of questions, suspicion, and shattered lives in its wake. Maria's choices had set in motion a chain of events that would soon attract the attention of law enforcement and the public alike. The murder quickly drew the attention of Dubai police, turning what had been a private scandal into a high-profile investigation. Authorities began piecing together the events of that fateful night, relying on security footage, phone records, and witness accounts. Every detail, from Maria's secret meetings with Faisal to the sudden confrontation with Antonio, was scrutinized. The investigation revealed a tangled web of desire, deception, and betrayal that shocked even seasoned officers. Maria's lifestyle and the luxury surrounding Faisal complicated the case. Investigators encountered resistance from the billionaire's powerful circle, but forensic evidence proved difficult to ignore. Blood traces, fingerprints, and digital communication painted a clear picture of the events, contradicting any attempts to downplay the violence. Each revelation deepened the public's fascination, as the story unfolded like a suspenseful drama that had crossed the line into real life. As the investigation progressed, Maria's role became increasingly clear. She had knowingly manipulated both men, creating a dangerous triangle that escalated into tragedy. Faisal's obsession and Antonio's loyalty collided, leaving Maria caught in the center of a deadly storm. Detectives began to reconstruct the final moments, highlighting the tension, fear, and desperation that had culminated in murder. The public watched closely as authorities navigated the complexities of wealth, influence, and crime. Dubai's media reported every twist, turning the case into a sensational story of passion, greed, and betrayal. The investigation not only sought justice for Antonio, but also revealed the darker side of desire, where ambition and temptation could drive ordinary lives into extraordinary danger. Every discovery made it clear: the glamorous world Maria had coveted concealed perilous secrets, and no one involved would emerge unscathed. The courtroom became the stage for the shocking conclusion of a story that had captivated Dubai and the world. Maria and Faisal faced the full weight of the law, each revelation exposing the dangerous game that had led to Antonio's death. Evidence showed that Maria had knowingly manipulated both men, while Faisal's obsession had escalated into uncontrollable violence. The truth was more devastating than anyone had anticipated, revealing a tangled web of seduction, betrayal, and greed. Witnesses described the events leading up to the murder, and forensic reports confirmed the timeline of violence. Maria's glamorous outings, secret meetings, and lavish lifestyle became central to understanding the motives and consequences of the crime. Faisal's wealth and influence could not shield him from justice, and the trial exposed the dark side of power when combined with obsession. When the verdicts were delivered, Faisal was convicted of murder, his empire of influence unable to protect him from accountability. Maria received a lengthy sentence for her role in manipulating events and contributing to the fatal chain of decisions. The courtroom drama left the public stunned, as a tale that began with temptation ended in tragedy. In the aftermath, the story became a grim warning about the dangers of desire and obsession. Maria's longing for luxury and attention had drawn her into a deadly game, while Faisal's controlling nature had turned deadly. Antonio, the unsuspecting husband, became a tragic victim caught between two powerful forces. The tale of seduction, betrayal, and murder would be remembered as a cautionary story, showing that even in a city of glittering wealth, choices driven by temptation and greed could have fatal consequences. The story closed not with glamour or romance, but with the harsh reality that desire, deception, and obsession can destroy lives, leaving only lessons in their wake.